Three, two, one.
You know what I feel like doing?
What?
I feel like kicking back, relaxing, getting comfy. Welcome to Get Comfy on the Throne. I am your host, Kalo, as always, here to give you the lowdown on all things Game of Thrones, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Hey guys, it's your girl Kimmi.
So we have finally reached the end of all ends. And, you know, it feels weird. It feels weird to be here.
Yes, honestly, it does.
It's kind of like that thing where I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands anymore. Like that type deal. Like that's me right now.
What do I do with my hands? I don't know. I feel like we were left with like a super cliffhanger, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll just wait for next week. That's not the case.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know, because we talked about this before where they're like offered 10 episodes, they took 6, and you know, it's at a point now where it's like, you know, like I think maybe you guys should have done 10 just to kind of flesh out the story and allow more growth for storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, when I was watching it, I was like, what? I was like, Bish, what? Like, I was just taken aback. Some things that we had predicted and what a lot of other people predicted also happened, and I was like, wow, hashtag pura caca. Like, I was so upset because I was like, really?
It's like you heard it here first.
Seriously, I was like, yo, but I feel like a lot of people also were able to come to these conclusions from just like seeing how a lot of characters and just a lot of plots developed over the season.
Yeah, so let's just start unpacking this whole episode because it was one that kind of took a lot of twists and turns, so to speak. So the episode starts off with Tyrion walking through King's Landing, all the destruction, seeing the burnt bodies, seeing the fire, and all of this madness, so to speak, happening. And, you know, I feel bad for Tyrion because this whole time he was the one guy trying to find peace in all of this. He was the one guy trying to relay a bridge, so to speak, between Dany and the people. And Dany threw that out the window. So he was walking around seeing all this, and he knew that she won, but she took it the extra mile, like we said on the episode before.
Yeah, she ran with it, dude. She totally ran with it because she, quote unquote, promised to stop, you know, the attack once the bell rang, and Cersei did use the civilians as what's it called? Wow, I'm hitting a blank right now. They're innocent bystanders. They were caught in the crossfire. So Cersei was like, well, I don't really care, whatever, you know. And like we mentioned before, when like Dany came in with Drogon, Cersei was like, "Oh my Lanta, like I messed up."
Yeah,
and she was realizing the error of her ways. So then, when Tyrion, I knew for a fact as soon as like everything came down and like dust cleared and everything, he was going to go looking for his siblings. I knew it.
Oh yeah, it's kind of a thing where he wanted to make sure that his brother and sister got out safe or that they died.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was that scene between, and like moving on from Tyrion because we're kind of following the pace of the episode, but Jon Snow and Sir Davos came across Grey Worm in the streets, and he had a bunch of Lannister soldiers lined up, and he said, he's like, these guys are prisoners, these guys committed wrongs against the Queen, we have to kill them. Like he said, like that was the only way to resolve things. And we kind of see where Jon still had that moral stake in this, where he was like, no, this isn't what we have to do. Like, we won. It's over. Like, there's no other things to do to them. Like, they're already at your mercy. So then Grey Worm kind of took it the extra mile, where he was like, I'm gonna slit their throats, and like, there's nothing you can't do. Like, we're doing this regardless.
I was taken aback by that because I was like, I felt like Grey Worm evolved enough to not think the way that he was thinking, like as a soldier, because obviously I feel like Missandei kind of humbled him enough and like gave him something to care about and love and be able to understand that it's not just kill, 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 or follow commands, or do stuff like that. But I was just taken aback by it. And I know John has been trying to, you know, look on the brighter side of war and of like the destruction of everything since before the Battle of the Whites. So I don't know. I just feel like they probably shouldn't have like just killed my dog. They probably shouldn't have slit their throats. Like John was right in the sense where it's like they weren't following the queen because they wanted to.
Yeah.
The same way how like the Unsullied and Grey Worm, they are choosing to follow Daenerys.
Yeah, 100%.
As for the Lannister, like the Lannister army, that's the army that they were in. They didn't have a choice. They just were like, okay, well, I'm going into the army, and it so happens to be the Lannister army. So they weren't following their queen because they wanted to. They were just following it because they were just following orders, the same way how like all other military follows orders.
Oh, 100%. And speaking of following the queen, we're moving on to Dany's victory speech, I guess. This is what we're going to call it. I mean, it was weird because I got a lot of dictator, like kind of Hitler vibes from her. As weird as it was to say that, but she kind of said that, like, our work here isn't done. We have a whole kingdom, a whole world to liberate. And it's that point where it's like, you gotta, like, chill. Like, you won. Like, you have it.
Reel it in, girlfriend.
Yeah, dial it back. And there was that shot of Dany walking out to her troops, and the Drogon's wings, like, flew out from behind her. I was like, this bad bitch. Like, hold up. Like, that is imagery to the finest, because she's kind of now like an angel of death or darkness or something like that, or of evil. So that speech was very weird. I mean, props to Emilia Clarke, because I believed it. I was like, yo, like, chill. But,
and like Dothraki isn't easy to speak, and neither is like her version, because she speaks High Valyrian, right?
Yeah.
So everyone else speaks, like, I guess, kind of more of like a dialect. Perfect example, Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So you have Spaniard Spanish, which is like the, it's that's what started it all. And it's based off of Latin, obviously. But you have Spanish, and then you have all of, countries that speak Spanish that aren't, right, obviously, that are like Latin America or whatever. And then everyone has their own like little dialect from it. But going back to what you said about when Drogon like pulled up behind her, dude, that was epic. Like, that was sick. Of just like you said, the imagery was like impeccable. Like, that was dope as hell.
The Dragon Queen.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what it came out to be. And her speech was very Hitlery.
Oh yeah,
very dictatory, like super, like it. Yeah, like,
she was up high, her soldiers were low, and I remember back in film school we watched this film called Triumph of the Will, and it was. Have you seen that? I don't know.
I've seen snippets of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So basically, for those of you who don't know, it's like Hitler propaganda, where it's like it promotes him as a good guy, and he's giving these speeches to his people, but he's all the way high up on this pedestal, like overlooking his people, and it views him as a god, and that's kind of where Dany stands right now. And then we move on to where Tyrion walks up to her and he's like, you killed all of these people, basically calling her out on her bullshit. And now there was that tension that was always building between the two leading up to this episode, and it boiled over where Dany's like, all right, take him in, he's a prisoner now, he betrayed me.
Shit finally hit the fan with Tyrion and Dany, because she did break her promise. She killed innocents, like a lot of innocent people, and that's, I feel like, where Tyrion was like, he got really upset, because obviously Tyrion, being the way that he is, I guess, throughout the entire series, is he always looked out, quote unquote, for the little guy. Not because Peter Dinklage. is short, is of short stature, but he always looked out for like the underdog, I want to say, because obviously he is an
Yeah.
underdog. So I feel like that's what really triggered him and was like, I cannot believe you killed, like, I guess millions of, or like thousands or whatever,
Yeah,
of like
women,
innocent people,
children,
kids.
babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
So I
sad.
feel like it was really sad, especially the part where Tyrion's walking and you see the little girl with the horse.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, damn, son. I was like, oh, my heart.
And then
But you can see Sir Davos, you can see Jon, and then you see that little like tussle between like Jon and Tyrion, because he was like, it's not safe.
yeah.
And then Tyrion's like, really, bro? Like, she killed everybody. What's gonna happen? Like, at this point.
Yeah, it's like,
So
who
then
can
he was
honestly
like,
touch
I'm
her?
gonna go. Yeah, and then he's like, I'm gonna go by myself. When he said that, I was like, he's gonna go look for his brother and sister. That's why he doesn't want anyone with him. Not because he like feels like he can protect himself or whatever. He just wants to go look for his siblings, and he finds them.
Yeah, that was sad. That was like
It
the one moment
was.
where I felt sorry for Cersei. As weird as it sounds, like, never
Yeah.
thought I would say that, but, you know, it was sad to see they died in each other's arms, which was expected, and that's what Jaime
Mhm.
wanted. But then Tyrion kind of realizing, like, no matter what, no matter how bad Cersei was to him, or how good Jaime was, that's still family. And
Yeah, that's his sister.
yeah, and to see that happen just the way it did, where they didn't get out, they were so close. I mean, like, they could have just gone through the Red Keep, but they were obviously blocked off. But
Right.
how close they were to escaping, and how close it was to getting what they want and kind of being safe, just to let that all come, no pun intended, crashing down, it was sad. And Peter Dinklage, I mean, that whole scene, the way he was acting, I mean, I was like, I'm not crying. Who's cutting onions in the room? Like, honestly, it
No,
was
yeah,
like that.
I thought the same. I was like, damn, like that's really intense to like lose your siblings, right? Because regardless of however they were, they're your siblings. That's your fam bam, you know. So
Yeah.
then his portrayal of just like the agony and then the like just the mourning that he kind of portrayed there was like dope.
Yeah,
Like, that's
honestly.
great acting. I was like, damn, I'm invested. I'm locking eyes with him right now. Like,
100%.
there, you know.
100%.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, Danny. She took a really weird turn.
Yeah.
I feel like this last season, we were all rooting for her. We were all like, hell yeah, Daenerys Targaryen is my queen. Like, you know, we were
Yeah.
all giving her a wild neck.
Yeah, honestly.
Like,
honestly.
OD. And then like this season, I feel like the writers were like, haha, you would have thought, motherfuckers. Like, they played us hard.
It was weird because this whole time leading up to her getting to Westeros, the way she was handling herself, conquering these people, everyone believed that those people deserved it. Like the slavers, all the people in Marine, everyone in those lands to the east. Everyone felt like they deserved it.
Yeah.
And she kind of never went unchecked. Like, she kind of just did her thing, and she liberated people as she went. It was kind of this force that swept through the east. And then when she got to Westeros, she encountered a little bit of feedback, and she encountered people resisting that, which, you know, I mean, that's what she did. And now she kind of got to the point where we've seen her overcome all these obstacles and do these things to these people. She crucified those people in Slave Bay.
I totally forgot about that until who brought it up to her? I think it was Tyrion
I think
too,
it
right?
was Tyrion, yeah.
When he brought it up, I was like, oh my god, like she really did crucify those people. And I was like, oh my, like, I feel like because it's been so long and such a jam-packed series that there's certain things that like you don't remember
Yep.
until you're like, oh my god, like this actually happened, like whoops, slipped my mind.
Yeah.
You're just like, so for the people like our friend Amanda who are like starting out, right? She's on season 2. I think
Yeah.
this week she should be done with season 2. Like they're still going with it, you know?
Yeah, honestly.
So
And it never went unchecked. And she had Jorah, she had those people she trusted to be with her. and guide her through this. I feel like if Jorah was here in this battle, we'd probably maybe have a different story. Who knows?
Absolutely.
I mean, there would be totally different outcomes. But to get back to Dany's speech, she gave the speech, she walked away with Tyrion under arrest. And then Arya comes behind Jon, and she's like, what are you going to do about this? Like,
Jon was so shook.
Yeah, he was like,
what?
I think in that moment, he was like, oh, fuck, I actually messed this all up. And then Arya was like, just be careful. I know a killer when I see one. And that line resonated because Arya herself is kind of the face of death now.
She's a stone cold killer.
I mean, she would basically said, like, I'm bad, but that's on a whole new level of bad.
Facts.
So Jon he's being told by people he cares about, like, hey, you need to fix this. This is your problem, and there needs to be resolution here. And he followed her in, and, you know, as things went on, it was pretty rocky.
I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting it.
What?
We all know what can't talk.
Yeah.
Edit that out.
Yeah, honestly. So
I wasn't expecting that whole moment with Jon and Dany.
I got something to say about that, which is hilarious.
I was expecting them to have that conversation and to, you know, embrace each other and all that thing. Once I heard the insertion of a dagger, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, who died?
Yeah, they didn't show.
I was like, wait. I was like, who did it? And then you see that Jon stabbed Dany.
Yeah.
I am so hurt by this.
I see.
I was like, oh my God, he killed her. Like, in a way, I was like, all right, bet, she's dead, fine, right? But then in another sense, I'm like, oh my God, he killed his second love of his life. Like, that makes me so sad because, you know, I was really expecting them and really hoping for them to rule together.
Yeah.
But like Tyrion said, and Jon had a conversation with Tyrion while Tyrion was arrested. Like, he threw his little pin of like the hand. He was like, fuck it. And then Dany was like, get his ass. Yeah. So then, you know, Tyrion's arrested or whatever. And then Jon goes and speaks to him. And then Tyrion tells Jon, yo, you know what you have to do, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
it was kind of put on his shoulders. And that's where it had to be. Because Tyrion couldn't do it. And Jon was the only one kind of on the same level as Dany in a sense, where it's like he gets where she's going, and
like they're somewhat equal.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
And if there had to be anybody to do it, it would be the person closest to Dany in a sense, even though they've had their differences. But this whole scene was where Jon was saying, like, "Oh, you're my queen, like forever and always." I mean, like, he loved her until the end. And he still did. It wasn't like he didn't love her anymore. He always did. But he just realized the monster that she became.
Yeah.
And then Drogon sweeps in. And this is where I was like, Jon about to be food. It is over. Good game. Like, move. Let's.
Bro, I was like about to bite my nails. And I'm like, oh my God, no. Just. Like.
Yeah.
It was such a nail biting scene. And I was like, oh my sweet baby Jesus, what is going to happen? Because look, since Jon is Targaryen, I was like, all right, Drogon's gonna be pissed and like spit fire at him and be like, and like Jon's not gonna get on fire, right? I was expecting that. I was like, oh my God. And then I cried at this scene. This scene made me cry.
Oh my
because
gosh.
I have a dog. So you know, we were all raised on, like, you know, those sappy dog movies, you know, early 2000s sappy dog movies, you know what I'm talking about? So when I see Drogon, you know, kind of nudge Daenerys's body, I was like,
Shades of the Lion King. Like, get up. Like,
exactly. I was like, I'm like thinking about it, I'm getting teary-eyed.
Oh.
But I was like, oh my God, I was like, she's dead. Like, oh, and then you can see he gets upset.
He starts crying in a way, whimpering, like,
because he realizes that Jon killed her. Like, he knows, he can tell. I feel like he can tell.
Yeah, there's been that debate where it's like
And then,
Drogon thought that like, oh, it's the throne that killed Dany because it has the pointy things, and like he made the connection. That's why he burned it down and he melted the Iron Throne. I think Drogon, in a sense, has more like perception of everything because I think he went for the throne because he realized that's what caused all of this. All of this death, all of, like, and it's weird to say like, oh, a dragon can tell all of that. Like, oh,
I
like,
mean, but if you really think about it though, like dogs are very perceptive beings. They're doofy as hell. But you know, perfect example, like if I'm not feeling well, my dog will come and like
he'll be like, oh, I got you.
Yeah, like he'll come and he'll like cuddle with me and stuff like that. But I feel like Drogon, he did whimper. He what is it called? He wailed, basically.
Yeah,
that's
pretty much
where he was wailing at that point. And yeah, and then he turns around and he burns the throne.
Yeah, he melts it all down, kind of scoops Dany up, and then he just takes off. And I think that direction is east, like back towards like where they came from, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really good in a sense of direction. We'll get to another point of that in the later down the line. But yeah, there was that whole scene, and Jon is captured and put in jail because of he killed the queen.
I wasn't expecting Jon to be arrested like that, only because
it's like no one's ever see it.
Jon technically is the rightful heir of the Iron Throne that is now melted.
Yeah.
You know, so I was expecting for him to come up and be like, listen, I'm Aegon Targaryen. I'm the rightful heir. This, that, and the third, right?
I wouldn't expect that out of Jon. And I kind of felt like if Grey Worm was still, like when he was still kind of in charge, he was the commander or whatever, he wouldn't let Jon slide. He was looking for a reason to like get rid of Jon or like at least put him in jail. And that was his reason. Now, moving on from that, we get a time jump, if I'm not mistaken, in a way.
Yes.
So we get a time jump to where I guess Tyrion is being put on trial in front of all the major houses. This is where we get Brienne of Tarth, the Starks. Then we get Lord Aaron of the Vale, the old titty boy. That boy. Apparently everyone's like, he glowed up. So, I mean,
we got to talk about that because, yeah, everyone is legit like, he had a massive glow up, which he really did, though.
But everyone forgets him. Everyone, I mean, like, they knew him as Titty Boy. And then, like, now he's, like, in the time where he was shown on the show versus now, it's like, he grew up just like Sansa and Arya did.
How many years have gone by for him to have that glow up? Because
he has to be at least 16 or something, like, or at least the same age.
19. He's 19. I saw it on Instagram. You
19. Went right to your phone looking for that shit, I bet.
No, actually, I saw it on Instagram, but they had like a pop-up thing about him on Snapchat like 2 days ago.
Okay.
And I saw it there and I was like, whoa. Yeah, and then you have
Sir Davos, you have Atali, like Sam.
Yeah.
You have that one dude from Blackwater.
Yeah, and then you have the
people from the Citadel, I'm sure, I think.
Yeah, a prince from
Dorne.
Yes, a prince from Dorne.
Dornish prince that no one knew about. Yes. But so it's all the major houses of Westeros, and Tyrion kind of weaseled his way out of the trial and was like, we need to pick a ruler. And I like how Sam like invented democracy, and everyone's just like, lol, shut the fuck up, let's go, let's keep it moving, like we're gonna stick to this.
I was like, they're totally not gonna do this. This is still a hierarchy. This is still like,
so Tyrion kind of bridged that gap where he's like, okay, well, we won't do that, but we'll like get all the houses together at a certain point and vote for a king or a queen. So he starts going on this speech, and pretty much the gist of it was he liked how Bran had a good story or something like that.
I mean, your brother threw him out of a fucking window.
People had their reservations. People had
Right.
their reservations about that because it's like, oh, Arya doesn't have a better story. Sansa, Tyrion himself.
This kid got
Sam.
thrown out a fucking window, bro. Like, probably a 5-story window. That should have killed him.
Yeah, so the whole point of it was that Bran is the history of Westeros, and who better to rule, or who better to like guide them into the future than the past?
The Three-Eyed Raven.
Yeah, and the Three-Eyed Raven. So, and I like how Sansa was like, well, he can't have kids, so like,
I mean, you never know.
threw him under the bus. Just straight up was like, get the fuck out of my way, like, get out of here.
Yo, I was like, damn, Beach, like,
Just doing your
you
brother
still
like
name
that.
a successor, like, what the fuck?
So then Sansa was like, listen, I appreciate my brother, I respect him, I'll be there for him, but the North will be separate. And that's kind of where I felt like it had to go, even though Sansa kind of made it seem like she was being very greedy, but it came from a good place. It came from a good place because she's been through so much, and the North has been through so much. She's like, I don't want to go through that again, especially if I'm ruling.
Mm-hmm. But I also feel like she should have been able to trust her brother enough to still keep the North in the Seven Kingdoms. So the fact that she was like, no, like, fuck you, in a way, I was like, you know what? I was like, you're being greedy.
Yeah.
Like, you're being greedy. Like, we all understand you went through whatever that you went through, and it was rough, very traumatic. But at the same time, what makes you better to rule the North?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
Than your
that
brother.
point. And they kind of came to a conclusion that Jon's going to be exiled to the Wall, which, you know, whatever at that point, because one, there's no threat of White Walkers that we know, and two, there really isn't a wildling threat, so the Night's Watch is pretty useless. I mean, I guess if there's invaders, but like, it was kind of a thing to just be like, all right, fine, he's going to the Wall, even though him being with Tormund, being with Ghost, being with his wildling like brothers and sisters, that's where Jon fit in the most, because he never wanted power, he never wanted any big role, and now he can kind of just be Jon Snow or be Aegon Targaryen, whatever he wants to be, and kind of just be his own person.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cute to see the, Jon and Ghost reunited, and super adorable.
All those people who said Jon Snow sucked can eat shit, because he said he like pet his dog, and they're all buddy now. The boys are back in town up north. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. So before Jon leaves for the Wall, we get the goodbyes. Arya is going to be sailing west of Westeros to kind of explore and see what's out there, which, it's expected. She's not going to Storm's End with Gendry. Poor old Gendry. But then, Sansa is Queen of the North, and Jon's just on his way up north, the true north, which is where I think Jon is able to exist. So, all hail Bran the Broken,
That is a terrible, terrible alias. Like,
yeah, they had to do him like that.
Okay, so then time goes on, and then Bran goes, Tyrion, I want you to be the hand. And then Tyrion's like, nah.
Yeah, he's like, oh
no,
he's gonna live out his days paying back, or like,
yeah,
he said something where it's like, if I'm gonna suffer, you're gonna suffer with me.
Facts. It's a group effort.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So then they vote Bran king, right? So, a little time passes by. Jon goes up north. Arya goes out west. Sansa goes north to shout out to delivery trucks that are getting picked up by the mic. And then, so then Sansa goes to north, and Sansa gets crowned Queen of the North.
Yes, a very good moment for her.
Which I'm like, okay, like, who is she gonna get married to and have kids with that, like, isn't a royal or is a royal, whatever, regardless of the fact she's gonna be marrying down.
Yeah, I mean, unless her and Tyrion like rekindle a relationship,
I doubt it, bro.
I don't know, but that's kind of,
I do not think so. So then we come back to the like small council.
Yes.
Right? So then we see Tyrion and he starts fixing the chairs, which cracked me up because it goes back to one of the earlier seasons where his dad's the hand of the king. And he's like, and he pulls the chair around and sits it at the table. Super funny. And So then he fixed all the chairs, and then they just come and like fuck everything up.
Yeah, honestly. So the people who are on the small council, Sam is the Grand Maester, whatever you want to call it. Meester. Brianna Tarth is the commander, Lord Commander.
Yes. Of the King's Watch.
Yes. Braun is Master of Coin, funny enough. And then Sir Davos is the like leader or like overseer of ships or something, which is good. You know, everyone fit in that
Of
role.
merchants, I think.
Merchants, something like that. But it's like everyone fit in their role, and it's a bunch of outcasts who come together, and now they're working together. Especially Bran, who's kind of an outcast too, in a way.
Yeah.
So
Pulls up with Brienne.
yeah, and then
Podrick.
my boy.
Sir, he's so cute.
My boy, he's the knight.
Super cute.
He's rolling around the king.
Yeah.
And you know,
Totes adorbs.
they wrote the Song of Ice and Fire, Sam did, which is kind of like the whole overarching story of Game of Thrones. And then Brienne, before she leaves, writes in the entry for Jaime saying he died protecting his queen. And, you know, she could have been like, nah, he got a little small dick and like he has no hand, like whatever. But like
He still got your boozy.
yeah, so she kind of did the right thing, and like even though she was heartbroken, she knew that Jaime had the good intentions in a way. I mean, as weird as it sounds, but I'm sure people have their reservations about that. They're like, oh, Jaime like betrayed everyone, blah blah blah. He's not a good person, but
Word, he's a punk bitch. Like, you know.
yeah, honestly,
I feel like that was very aggressive. No, but I do feel that it was very hard for her to write, you know, to finish his story, to write off his story, you know. And I was expecting her to be like, and he is succeeded by a child, blah blah blah. I was really hoping for that.
like a
I was really
spiteful
hoping
like last word
No,
type deal.
I was really hoping that like he would have gotten her pregnant. Like, don't pull out Jaime. Get Brienne of Tarth pregnant.
Oh my
We'll
god.
have a massive blonde-haired baby. Like, I was really hoping for that, but she didn't. And she was like, and he died protecting Queen. I was like, trash.
Yeah, so that in itself is the ending of Game of Thrones. I mean, we're at the end here. We're going to get multiple spin-off series, so later down the line we'll cover that. But as of now, the whole series is over, so these weekly episodes are going to end right now. But later down the line, we're going to get Amanda from the Get Comfy podcast to come on, and we're going to be doing recaps of all previous seasons because we want to kind of give our thoughts on everything. But you know what? I think that about does it here for Get Comfy on the Throne. I hope y'all enjoyed. Remember, we upload this every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you like what we do here, go check out the Get Comfy Game Break, which uploads every Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on all major listening platforms and YouTube. And then go check out the original Get Comfy podcast, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. with all of those iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube. But you know what? Winter has came and gone. All hail Bran the Broken, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
You know what I feel like doing?